o'clock. I'd like to call our meeting to order. Call a roll. Dwight Jewell here, Jerry Ford, Rachel Jones, absent. Ken Buckmaster, Shane Burton, Gary Clarity, Bill Ferguson, Bubba Gregory, Landon Gully, Richard Harsh, Gary Walsh. Okay, we do have a quorum. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. We'll go over review the minutes from the August the 16th meeting. Pretty short and sweet. See any additions, corrections, or deletions that need to be made to the minutes? Mr. Ford? Have a motion to approve. Mr. Gully gets second. Have a motion by Mr. Ford, and a second by Mr. Gully to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Like sign. Minutes are approved. First item on our agenda is to look over the final reports from the year 2021. That would be the second and third page. Ones that's shaded in gray, green, and white. Mayor and Amy, I'll let y'all kind of run down the line with us and go over this with us and let us know. It looks like there's several categories that were quite a bit of change from what was budgeted. So just whoever wants to weigh in on it.
Well, Ms. Thomas put this together. It says it's a fund balance report for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2021. It's broken down by different funds. It shows the beginning fund balance, revenues and expenditures overall, and ending fund balance. And then the section below that for each fund, you see a breakdown as to exactly what those funds are currently either expenditures or encumbrances for purchase orders that were outstanding, reserved and committed for something that has to be spent for a specific item. And then the unassigned balance is what's actually available to be assigned to an expenditure. So each one of those, if you look at the general services, our ending fund balance was $4,344,372. So that was a net change, an increase of $493,871. But almost all of that entirely is governor's local support grant funds. And if you look down below that, there was encumbrances of $537,520 for purchase orders. $1,059,913 is reserved or committed to specific use, leaving an unassigned fund balance of $2,746,940. And again, that all comes out of the fund balance of $4,344,372. So each one of those funds is set up in a similar manner. Is there any questions on the general services?
What is the majority of the reserved and committed funds?
I'll leave it over to Ms. Thomas.
Right now, looking at just the fund balance report, it's just going over the fund balance. On the next page, we'll go over the reserves and committed because I have that separated out for everyone. I don't think the reserves have ever really been set out for everybody. So I would really like to kind of go over that so you know what we're pulling from.
Okay. It was such a substantial amount of money. I was just wondering if it was lots of things or just a few, and we'll go over that in a minute. Thank you. Okay. Any questions on the 101? Okay, Mayor.
All right, for the urban services, we had a beginning fund balance of $1,154,866. Revenues of $1,664,543. Expenditures of $1,329,349. Had an ending fund balance of $1,490,060. That's a net change being increase of $335,194. A good percentage of that is again, the governor's local support grant that we got for the urban services. We did not receive that this year and we will not receive that going forward. So that was a one-time thing for urban services. If you take out those grant funds for the urban services, that'll leave you with $62,194. That was actually an increase just based on our tax revenue. Of that final budget amount, we had $15,007 was encumbered by POs, reserved of $273,000, and unassigned of $1,202,053.
Any questions on that one? Okay.
Okay. For the solid waste, we have beginning fund balance of 581,710, revenues of 911,822, expenditures of $662,004. I had an increase of 249,818 for an ending fund balance of 831,528. Of that amount, we got 4,523 was encumbered by purchase orders, and then an unassigned balance of $827,005.
Pretty substantial increase.
Yes, sir. If there are no questions on the 116, I'll move to the 118 ambulance. Have been given a fund balance of 523,146, revenues of 1,045,698, expenditures of 1,211,498 for an ending fund balance of $366,346. So we had a deficit in that fund of $165,800. And I believe a lot of that was due to they stopped doing the dialysis transports, and there was a decrease in transports from Trousdale Turner. I think when we had some budget hearings, some other budget and finance committee meetings and whatnot a little bit earlier this year, I think Director Beatty was here, and that was kind of largely attributable to those two factors as to some of the overages there for that fund. Of that $366,346, $10,685 was encumbered by outstanding purchase orders, leaving an unassigned balance of $355,661.
Would it be safe to assume that we'll see this deficit next year, being that we're still not doing anything with dialysis patients and CCA is attempting to do more things in the house? Will we see this again?
We moved some pennies over this year to the 118 to kind of make up that difference. So I don't know that you'll see that exact amount, but I do expect those losses in revenue to continue going forward. Exactly what that's going to be at one time last year, Trousdale Turner was down to around 2,100 inmates. I think now they're going back up to about 2,500. So I'm not sure I think you're still going to see a decrease in prisoner transports, but I think it may come back a little bit over it was last year due to they were trying absolutely not to send inmates out. But again, I can't tell you what that's going to be.
No, obviously that's just a prediction, but the reasons for why there was a deficit are still in existence. That's why I was curious about that.
Yeah, I expect the conditions that led to it to continue. Like I said, I do think that you're going to see a rebound a little bit, maybe on the Trousdale Turner transports, just due to an increase of 300 to 400 inmates. But I think you're still going to see that trend continue.
Any other questions? Mr. Buckmaster?
This particular budget, was there a vehicle purchase and several high price, like the gurneys and the chest compression stuff? Was that not included in that budget as well?
I think Ms. Thomas.
Yes, that is included in all of that.
Do you have any idea about how much that would affect this red line?
Because we budgeted for the exact amount, I don't believe it's going to affect it too much, but I will look into that just to give you a clearer answer.
This, I'll say, we are awaiting the final rule from the Treasury Department. The sentiment we've gotten from some state agencies is some of the American Rescue Funds may be able to go to purchase new ambulances and other equipment as long as it can be tied to a COVID-19 response.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to Fort Civics, just pass through, go into the county drug patrol.
Yes, sir. On the 122, the county drug patrol, this is completely under the sheriff's department. Had a beginning fund balance of $61,025, revenue of $12,707, expenditures of $330 for an ending fund balance of $73,402. That was an overall increase of 12,377, and that entire amount is unassigned, and that's usually for things going to drug enforcement, and I think the sheriff sometimes sends inmates to like drug counseling or things like that, if I remember correctly. Okay, it's a different fund. So this is specifically for like drug enforcement kind of expenditures. Okay, non-reoccurring drug enforcement expenditures.
Questions on that one? So you move on to debt.
All right, 151 debt service, we had beginning fund balance of $484,323, revenues of $945,906, expenditures of $829,601 for an ending fund balance of $600,628. That was an increase of $116,305, and that entire ending fund balance is unassigned.
I do know that, does the school debt service, is it included in this? It's not on this one. Okay. What's included in this primarily? Roughly.
This includes, I think, Q-Scab loans, if I'm correct on that. The high energy school improvement, criminal justice center, middle school roof, administrative building. And it was up until going to be recently the front end loader, but we had it in our budget, go ahead and pay that off this year, so it won't continue on to next year.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay. Education debt service is the one.
Education debt service, this is the payments on the high school. Had a beginning fund balance, $543,779. Revenues of $445,664. Expenditures of $603,795 for an ending fund balance of $385,648. There was an overall decrease of $158,131. And as this is specifically to pay off the high school under the wheel tax, that entire amount goes to that expenditure. And that is scheduled to be paid off, I believe, May 25th, 2022.
My understanding is some of the last few payments on the high school are ballooned a little bit larger than what the average payment has been. Even, I think, Amy, you said probably be left over with roughly $100,000, even with that increased amounts on those. So it's not going to be a windfall, but there should be a little bit of money there. Any other questions on it? Okay, let's flop the page.
This page lays out the restricted and committed funds that were kind of listed on the previous page. The first two sections are the 34,110, that's the Sheriff's Department, and the 34,120, that is the jail. So between those, you see it's $537,519.50.
Whoa, stop.
I'm reading that.
It has nothing to do with the jail.
Well, it says 34,120.
34,120 is a equity account. It is not
so
a 54. Let me take over here. So your encumbrances are your purchase orders. The 34,110 are your current purchase orders for 2021. That's what we currently have reserved for any outstanding purchases for the year ending 21. 34,120 is anything before 21. We still have outstanding purchase orders from the year 19 and the year 20. We are trying to go through and clean up a lot of those, but that is the reserved amount needed to pay off those when we receive the invoices. And then the rest is mainly for your fee offices. Your Register of Deeds has $18,066 in their funds that they can, I believe she is budgeted for a scanner this year, and that money came out of that. Your county clerk has 21,316. We recently did a budget amendment for a decal printer. That's where that came from. Your court clerks have 75,444. Your sheriff has 86,405. A lot of that has to be spent specifically for alcohol and drug treatment or the sexual offender registry. We have 750 left over from a built environment grant from 2019, I believe. Your EMA rescue squad has 3,540 that they can use for equipment. And then the next category is several little different things. Your animal shelter, which is donations and contributions specifically for the animal shelter. The majority of this came from memorials for Tim Meyer and Betty Lou Taylor. I do want to make a note that Karen Grisham and Lisa Steva have done a fantastic job over at the shelter. If you haven't seen that in the recent years, they used a lot of the funds to really clean it up, bring it up to specifications that are needed to take care of animals that come in. I also want to say thank you to Sean Hess, who did a lot of the construction projects over there at the shelter. Your next line item is archive donations. They currently do not have anything in the reserves there. Same for the fire department. Next line is your library. That is any donations or contributions made specifically for the library. They have 25,584. The next line is senior center donations. Again, any donations, contributions for the senior center is 52,957. Last year, we did a couple of amendments for their cookbooks. And I believe there was something else that we did through that. That's where that money came from. So it didn't come out of fund balance. It came out of reserve specifically for them. Your next section are the two grants or fundings that we got. The first one is the local government support funding. We have said this over and over again, and this is where the remaining funds have settled for that. So that is not in your unassigned, that is in your reserves. And the 10 CAMS funding, the $170, $60, that is also there. Are there any questions on any of the reserve accounts?
Yes, I'd like to, why do we have POs that's still 2 years old that haven't been paid?
We have not received invoices, and we've been told that, yes, they are still coming in, but we just haven't received them or we need to clear them out.
Shouldn't we get them monthly instead of,
It would be nice if we did. A lot of department heads like to lose them. No offense to department heads that are listening to this.
oh, well, I don't see that 2 years is a long time to have them
It
out.
is. And we try to clear those out as best we can.
Anything else? Clear as mud? Okay.
So your next page, or the facing page, I have the local government support grants listed. I have listed all the expenses we have taken out of those. And those are up to date. They have either been appropriated by budget amendment or it's noted by that we budgeted in the 2022 budget. So our current balance for the general services local government support is $197,584. That includes a pending budget amendment tonight for the local parks and recreation grant. The next one is urban services, the local government support funding of the 273 that we received there. Again, it is noted that these three expenses are in the current budget. So our ending balance on that is $196,358. And the next grant is the 10 CAMS funding. That was $330,000. We originally submitted for over $700,000. We were only granted $330,000. The ending balance on that pending a budget amendment tonight is $65,703. Are there any questions over those three?
The brush truck, we do have it ordered? And was it purchase order? Has it been invoiced or?
It has been invoiced. I believe we actually have made payment on that.
Okay. So do we have any idea when we're going to receive it?
That'd be a question for Chief Woodard. I seem to remember him talking about it, but I can't remember off the top of my head when the scheduled delivery was.
Y'all have any questions? Okay, you're scaring me. You're too quiet. All right, I guess. Take care of last year. We got the debt schedule on the next page. Any questions on it?
Yes, the last two items, the solid waste front end loader and the urban services trash truck, we have planned to pay off. We actually made the last payment on the front end loader last week. The trash truck will be paid off hopefully in November of this year.
Any other questions, anyone? Okay. Amy, appreciate all your efforts on putting that together for us. Okay, we have no further questions. We'll move on into the county trustees reports. We have our August 31st trial balance showing the cash on hand in the various funds. Of course, as we know, this is not fund balance, it's just a cash balance. Looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, last year we had a total 15,185,427. We ended the year at 13,136,721. Am I looking at that correctly?
No, we ended the year at 15,185,000. So this trailer balance is as of August 31st, 2021.
Oh, okay. That's the end of it. So this is August of this year. Okay. I knew that. Anything look wonky? Don't see anything. Any questions on it? Anything you will point out? Okay. All right, we'll move into the summary financial statements for the end of August. We're at 16.7%, 2 months in. As you can see, property tax won't start rolling in for several more months. Typically the first quarter, you have a lot of carryover, a lot of cleanup and not much income coming in and typically not a lot of money going out. In our 101 fund on income, we budgeted total year to date, 6,361,000. We're at 577,959 or 9.1. That, like I said, typically is going to run behind for several months until first of the year when we get most of our revenue from our current property tax. Just always hope and pray that we'll have enough balance to meet the cash flow needs as we go forward in these first few months. Any questions on the 101 revenue side? All right, let's move into expenses, 101 expenditures. Running a little bit over budgeted at 20% overall. I think a little bit of that is some of these bigger things that we paid one time for the whole year has been put in there, like soil services and some other things. Any questions specifically on any of those items? Okay,
That's Mr. Gill.
yes, sir.
Looking at the veteran service of 18608, did we get anybody out of the county to take that over, or has that been taken care of?
Right now, we are speaking with the Sumner County Veteran Service Officer about joining up with us, providing some services here. This was a suggestion by the Tennessee Department of Veteran Services. So we're working on an agreement with them.
But it's still gonna be for the same amount, or?
Well, right now, we're working with agreement with them. I can't tell you what the amount's gonna be. They'll be over here 2 days a month. We'll be paying them whatever their hourly is. So I would imagine it's gonna be less than what we budgeted because there's some items in there for travel and everything else that would cover anything like that. So you might see a budget amendment to move it around to a contracted service instead of being all these various line items.
So it's gonna be 2 days a month instead of 2 days a week?
It's gonna be 2 days a month right now. I didn't know that there is a requirement from the federal government. They have to do 20 hours a week in order to maintain certification. And then talking with the Tennessee Department of Veteran Services, they said they didn't feel we had enough veteran population here with the services that were being sought to justify that expenditure. They suggest we talk to Sumner County. We are talking to Sumner County. I've talked to Mayor Holt and their veteran service officer. They're very interested about coming over and helping us. We're going to keep track of monthly data. And then when we get into February and March, we're looking at our budget to see if with their outreach efforts and everything like that, if there's an increase in demand for services, then we'll reevaluate it at that time. And I will say I have met with both the commander of the VFW and the American Legion president, met with the Veteran Services Officer from Sumner County and the Tennessee Department of Veteran Services, and they were all agreeable to this right now. The veterans, both VFW and American Legion thought this was a good way to go until we can get some outreach efforts and see if we can increase the demand for those services and then reevaluate it in February or March.
I was looking at line item 54,310 there, fire prevention and control. Is that such a high rate because we pay that in 2 payments, or what is that reasoning there?
Brush truck.
That's the brush truck, makes sense. Next one, question I had on 56,300, senior citizens assistance. Pretty high amount there that we spent on that one.
That large part is their CARES Act grant. It has not been appropriated as far as revenues and expenses just yet. That should be in the next month or 2 that we get that budget amendment put in place. Their CARES Act portion is, it's what they were doing last year. They're buying groceries and any personal items for shut-ins and elderly that cannot get out.
So that's only because of they know those CARES Act funds are available, or is that going to continue?
Those CARES Act funds are available. They just haven't been amended in the budget yet. I'm waiting for an amount from GNRC to make sure we have the correct amount in there.
I guess what I'm also asking is that money is going to run out at some point in time. Is this going to, expense going to continue spending in this way?
There is a set amount, and I just don't know that final figure yet, but eventually, yes, they will have to stop doing that.
I guess I only asked that question on this terms when you have someone starting to get dependent upon that need, and that money goes away. Do those individuals know that there is right now a grant that's providing that funds, and we're not going to have somebody just sitting there with, uh-oh, what do I do now?
And that I don't have an answer to. Ms. Hunter, Ms. Gregory might have an answer for that. I don't know on that particular perspective.
Anyone else? Okay. Move into our 111, urban services on revenues. There again, property tax, you won't have in. You might note on 101 and 111 that building permits are, had kind of a run on them the last 2 months. Quite a few new house starts. So they're up quite a bit. That was the only thing that I saw. Great note. Any other questions? Anybody? Mayor, Amy, you got anything you want to point out on it? 111 expenditures, same thing. Everybody good with it? Okay, move on to 116, solid waste. Revenues at 3.9 so far, and that's to be expected at this time of year. Expenditures are bouncing at 8.6. Starting out the year, I think we're about where we need to be there. Any questions on it? 118 ambulance service, flip the page, page 7. Don't want to sound like a broken record, but when we're dependent so much of our revenue on property tax, it sure skews the figures until it starts coming in. Anything there that you want to point out, Mayor? Any questions? Okay. All right, county drug fund, we know that's basically a pass-through. It's a restricted fund. Already discussed it. 131 highway fund revenues. Of course, their gas fuel tax tends to run a month behind before they get it. That kind of skews their figures a bit, but still their expenditures are under the 16.7. Any questions or concerns on it? All right. If not, we'll move into the 151. Debt service. I have some concerns on our education debt service, 156 in wheel tax, in that so many cars now, the dealers don't have cars to sell. You know, and I don't know how that's going to affect us until they get that situation kind of rectified. Right now on your 156, it's showing up pretty good, I think. So maybe it won't be a big issue, but you can see it's at 9.3 instead of 16.7. Don't know how much that has to do with that, but can't help but believe that it does affect it somewhat, or is going to affect it for a few months. Any questions on either one of those, 151 or 156? Okay. All right. We have no further questions. We'll move on into our budget amendments. I would entertain a motion to receive the reports, to approve the reports. Mr. Harsh makes a motion. Mr. Gully makes a second. All in favor of receiving the reports, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it is done. First budget amendment we have for consideration tonight is 2022-10107R. This is to amend the 101. It's a 101 budget item, pulling 98,000 out of our reserves, off of local government support or reserves off of that grant. This is going out into health and welfare, Parks and Rec on this improvements, ADA improvements at Trey Park. We've had a lot of discussion on this. One thing to note, I believe it came out of Parks and Rec at 94,000. And this is reflecting 98. I'm not sure how we got the numbers wrong in Park and Rec, but evidently there was an anomaly there. Can't really explain it. I don't think it was anything intentional on anybody's part, but the true figure we need to do is 98. Is that correct, Mayor?
That's my understanding, and I will say there has been discussion with the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation about possibly increasing the amount of the grant, but right now it's just discussion. There hasn't been no firm numbers, just the 98 is what we've got so far.
Have any questions on this one? I think everybody knows what it's for, what we're trying to do with it. Okay, everybody good with it? Take a motion to send it to the full body. Mr. Clarity makes a motion, send it forward. Mr. Gregory makes a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I guess we'll send it forward to the full body. Next is Budget Amendment 2022-101-08 FB. This is for data processing equipment. This is upgrading the county phone system. This came through Communications Committee on August 26th. They did recommend that we do this upgrade. We've reached the limit on the number of phones that the system will handle. So we're going to have to do some licensing upgrades as well as some equipment upgrades to be able to handle the expected new phones that we're going to need in this building, and some of the other offices are needing more with their growth. Any questions on that one? Did I explain that well enough? Okay. Mr. Buckmaster.
Is this the same phone system that basically left the county government without phones for a period of time, at least twice this month?
I didn't understand your question. I'm sorry.
Is this the same phone system that left the county government without phones for a period of time, at least twice this month?
Anybody address that? Other than it's over the internet. If the internet's down system-wide, your phone system's down as well. I think that's it. I don't know that there's any way to get around that.
It is the same system. I forget the exact reason why the phones went down last week. It was corrected within an hour. But the internet was cut about, 2 weeks ago, and we had no control over that.
So how many departments did that affect within the entire county?
Pretty much everybody.
It did affect everyone. Of course, the sheriff's department alone has their own AT&T lines. I'm sorry, I don't have more information on that. I am not an IT person. I was fumbling myself trying to get it back online.
I don't think anything is 100% foolproof. Even landlines and cell phones, when they blew up downtown Nashville, went out for a pretty good extended time. So this type system, the beauty of it is that you can call office to office without going through a switching system. Also, there's no long distance charges if someone needs to call out on it, what you would have possibly in a landline. I forget the total number of money that it was to save the county over the life of the system, but it saved us substantially over having all of these landlines on all these offices. I remember looking at that, but I don't remember how much it was.
I think
Mr. Mayor.
I'm looking at this as a one-time payment, And if we add these other 50 phone lines, how much is that going to increase yearly?
I believe yearly for the licensing, which basically is support and everything like that, it's $6,200 and something, I believe. But yeah, the 14,000 is for one time for labor to come in, install new equipment and whatnot, and for, I think, 5 phones. But as far as the licensing going forward, they bill you quarterly, but the annual cost will be a little over $6,000.
How much is it presently for what we have?
It's $590 every quarter, so 590 times 4.
20 plus 2,000. So we're gonna be roughly in the neighborhood of $8,000-9,000 a year.
No, the 6,000 includes with the new phones and everything.
Well, I'm talking about paying for the whole system. For the phones we already have, plus the new ones, we're gonna be paying roughly $8,000 a year.
No, it's just gonna be $6,000 a year. The annual cost is your license and everything, and that's gonna be $6,000, a little over $6,000. Any phone cost depends on how many phones you buy, and it's $248.50 per phone. But that's dependent upon you buying the actual phone itself.
Yeah, but what I'm asking, we've already got, you say we're paying $2,000 a year, what we already have, then we're gonna be paying $6,000 more for these, or is that?
With the addition to what we're already paying, it's just going to be a little over 6,000. So right now it's about 2,360. With adding these phones, it's going to be a little over 6. So it's about a $4,000 increase.
On the base licensing fee, it's bracketed. It's this amount of money up to 100, then it's another step to 150. Even if you're at 101, you're going to be paying just like you were paying for 150.
Yeah, you can expand your phone system. Right now, we're limited at 100 lines. This next package up is called your enterprise package, and that goes up to 150 lines. We're not going to use 150 lines right now. We're going to add a few, but it's still going to put us over 100. But as far, you can go way up to the 150, and it's still just going to be every year, your annual as far as support and licensing is going to be a little over $6,000.
Any other questions on this one? I think this is just one of those things that's part of growth, and it may be an evil, but it's a necessary evil, and we just have to bite the bullet and move on with it. Okay. I have a motion to send it to the full body. Mr. Gully? Mr. Gully, that's your motion. Mr. Gregory, seconds. I have a motion. Mr. Gully, and a second by Mr. Gregory. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll take it up next Monday night. Next one is Budget Amendment 2022-101-09R. This is Senior Center. This is for transferring some monies out of the reserve for some repairs and some miscellaneous items. Is that correct, Amy?
Yes, sir. One of their vans needs their air conditioning system repaired. And the other van recently had windows broken by a flyaway rock when they were close to lawn care in Gallatin. And so we have received an insurance recovery for that, but there is still a $500 deductible that they need covered. They're wanting to pull that out of their reserves. Again, if you go back a few pages when we went over reserve before, their balance is $52,000. They have plenty to pull out of that for these expenses.
Mr. Gully, did you have a question?
I do. I see the balance of $52,957, but I believe we added funds out of our support grants to this. Is why that, and it was really for food purchases and things. Quite a few times we were told them. Is that the same reason this balance is where it's at?
No, those two are completely separate.
A lot of this reserve is where they've gotten donations and things in, and where they've had fundraisers and things. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Also, the grant that you're referring to, it's a reimbursable grant. So we did not actually receive all the funding that was budgeted for last year, and that amount did not carry over to this year. So that's the number I'm waiting for to have the budget amendment for this year.
Mr. Ford makes a motion to approve. Any further discussion? Have a second? Mr. Ferguson gets the second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Second. Any opposed? I believe it is done. All right, we'll move that to the full body. Thank you. Next, we have BA 10110R or 2022-10110R. This is sheriff's equipment. This is taking reserve funds from the 10 CAMS funding, and this is for law enforcement equipment. And I think sheriff's purchasing some miscellaneous things, some firearms, holsters, holders, tack lights, bullets, targets, things of that nature. Is that correct, Sheriff? Come up. Thank you.
Every 10 years, we trade in our weapons to get new ones. We're in our 9th year right now. The reason why I'm gonna go ahead and do it this year, when we got the funds available through our grant.
Mayor, do you have anything to add on this one?
This was the amount Amy mentioned earlier. We submitted 700 something thousand. We only got back 330, and that was all tied to law enforcement or emergency services.
Mr. Ford? Mr. Harsh? Okay. Have a motion and a second. Mr. Ford, Mr. Harsh. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll move that one on.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have some from the school system. This is coming out of the 141. 2022 14101, a litany of things, but this is primarily for summer camp, funding summer camp, I believe it was. Is that, Mr. Gully, can you help us with that since Clint's not here? I said, is my understanding this is to fund summer camp, or is going to summer camp funding? Regular instruction program necessary to provide summer learning camp services in July or in the new fiscal year 22 school year. It was recommended by the Board of Education on August the 19th. This is their funds, their money. We're just moving it from one line item to another. Any questions on it? I'll try to answer them, or we'll do the best with it we can.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Ferguson to approve it. Have a second by Mr. Gully. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. They also have, the next one is on salary adjustments. I think this is where, when we did the budget, they had told there wasn't going to be increases for teachers. And then when it came through, there was money to do it. And I think this is to allocate those funds. That's my understanding. Did I get that right? Okay. Says a regular instruction program necessary to account for baseline salary increase due to increased minimum salary schedule and increase to bus driver salaries. This was recommended by the Board of Education on August the 19th. And there again, it's moving their money in their budget. Mr. Ford. Have a motion to approve it. Mr. Ferguson has a second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll move that one on. Last one is U-Trust donations. they're wanting to move it from unassigned fund balance over to the Office of Principal and Teachers. This is 2650. They rolled over in their fund balance. They hadn't used them yet. They're using it for student incentive expenditures. This was recommended by the Board of Education as well. This amounts to $2,326.50, and this is just moving it in within their budget. Mr. Harsh. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Harsh, second by Mr. Ford. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It does carry. We'll move it on to the full body. I believe that takes care of our budget amendments. Discussion items. Mayor, do you have anything you want to bring to our attention tonight?
Give me just a moment. There is something and it's trying to escape me right now. Oh, yes, the Industrial Development Board is looking at a payment in lieu of tax program for any industry interested in coming to Trousdale County. They have hired Rochelle McCullough Olds from Lebanon to help them set up that program. It was suggested by Rochelle McCullough Olds that when this is structured, that the final approval is done by a subcommittee appointed by the Budget and Finance. So that is, right now, there's no action to take on that. It's still at the Industrial Development Board. They have not passed anything to submit to the commission yet, but I just wanted to update you on that and let you know, look for that in the future, that would be any pilots would be submitted to that committee and there would be the final approval. So it would not be under Industrial Development Board. It'd be under a subcommittee established under Budget and Finance.
I believe the full body would approve the pilot program before we initiate it. It's just that any applications that we would have for that would come through that board. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. How the pilot would have to flow would be it's put together and voted on and sent from the Industrial Development Board to the county commission. It'll first come to Budget and Finance. You have to have it signed off here, approved by the county commission. You'll approve basically the structure of it. And then when somebody applies for it, they'll go through, they'll submit a lot of information about their proposal. It'll be evaluated by a consultant firm called Younger and Associates out of Jackson, Tennessee. And then they'll recommend a pilot package. And then that final package, if it's going to be approved, the final approval goes to that subcommittee that'll be established under Budget and Finance.
What a pilot program is, in case you're not familiar with it, it's payment in lieu of taxes. It's where you would give a corporation or company coming in a deferment on their taxes or percentage of their taxes over a period of time. It's very much used as a recruiting tool in trying to attract industry to your county. And what this is trying to do is to set this in place so that we have it. If they meet certain criteria, it's going to let you know when they're talking with them what they could expect or what could be done for them in that respect. And it has to do with the size of the investment, how many jobs, what the jobs pay, where they're going to locate. It's a very complicated formula to break down to come into what you're going to offer. And been working on this for quite some time, actually several years now, trying to put this together and make sure that it's not only fair for them, but fair for us. We want to be in a position where we're making informed decisions and not knee-jerk decisions. And if it doesn't pay out for us to do it, then we're certainly not going to do it. But that's what it's all about. Did I explain that pretty well?
Yes, sir. It is a very complicated issue, but that's basically the summary of it. And I will say, and Mr. Rochelle and I and the Industrial Development Board Chair, Brian King, we had a meeting at Tennessee Central, and Mr. Rochelle had stated at that time that if a company does not have at least an investment of $5 million into the community, it's probably not even going to be worth it to them to apply to this. So you're looking at a base project of $5 million from there going up. And again, what package we put together just depends on, like Mr. Jewell said, what their capital investment is. how many jobs we're hiring, what the pay for those jobs are, all the qualifications. It's very complex, but it'll be a consultant firm called Younger Associates that does this, not just in Tennessee, but other states as well, that would evaluate those proposals and recommend a package going forward. That would be submitted to that subcommittee of Budget and Finance.
Also, any of y'all that have interest in this or questions about this, I would suggest that you attend the IDB meetings, the Industrial Development Board meetings, where these discussions are happening. Might help you get a little bit better handle on it. But we will present it to you, hopefully explain it well enough, and certainly before we have a vote on it, and it will be up to the full commission to decide whether we want to go forward with this. And public comments, do we have any comments from the public tonight? See any, Mayor, did you have anything else? I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I just want to say, in talking to Mr. King a couple of days ago, he said Mr. Rochelle, looking at the timeline, said you're probably not going to see anything come to the county commission for at least 6 months.
Yeah. It's still way out. Just wanted to let you know what was in the works. Mr. Gully,
Motion to adjourn.
have a motion to adjourn. Anybody else want to make a second to that? Mr. Gregory does. All in favor, get up and go to the bathroom.